the last straw for me with school and administration and accommodations and this IEP and this whole process, what made me finally say, we are not going to do school anymore in this way was when Lara's second grade teacher got sick with COVID and he was gone for 2 weeks because, again, he was quarantined. He was not allowed back in the school until he was no longer testing positive for COVID. She had a substitute teacher for 2 weeks straight. Lara would come home every single day crying. She clearly was struggling in school. She was having a really hard time. I had had no communication with this teacher, and I called a meeting and I threw a fit when I heard that Lara's substitute teacher was telling her, "You're fine. Sit in your chair. Do as I tell you to." She would tell Lara it was all in her head, that she didn't have ADHD and that ADHD is not real.
Wow.
She had an IEP. Legally, this woman was supposed to give her accommodations. And because those accommodations were essentially created and maintained by the teacher and not written down, she was not obliged to follow any of it. After the second time the teacher got COVID and the substitute teacher came in and it was the same one, I was done. I realized I literally can't do worse than these people have done for her. We got to do some homeschooling during COVID, and I realized we could totally do this. And she's breezing right through this stuff. And an easy accommodation for her is oral proctoring. She can process something by hearing it easier than she can by reading it and thinking about it. Her therapist basically told me her IQ is really high and her EQ is really low. So not only is she on a high schooler level intellectually, but emotionally, she's at like 2 to 3 years behind in development. Essentially, homeschool has enabled her to be put in very specific, intentional social situations, not forced, but supported. So any social situation that she is in, usually I'm around or somebody who is aware of our situation, who can provide accommodations is around. Basically, until her IQ and her EQ start getting a little closer together on that scale, until her brain literally matures, we are taking her out of social situations that were damaging to her and actually providing her the accommodations she needed. We're not changing her ADHD. There's no helping it. It's trying to find ways that her brain would enjoy learning, trying to find ways that we can develop her habit of attention and her discipline to do hard things, knowing that there is an end. Those are the things that we did not get in public school. You just have to fit in. It has to be done by a certain time and it has to be done to a certain standard. Otherwise, you're wrong. And that's just not true.
What I've learned about ADHD and neurodivergence is that it seems to be genetic. Do you think there are people in our family who might be ADHD as well?
Almost certainly. I think that you and I escaped diagnosis because we had much more of an inattentive type of ADHD. We could get lost in things we were excited about that we wanted to learn, and that the hyperactivity was much more in our heads rather than externally, physically. Like it was with our brother, who was always like rocking and moving, and he was always moving around. Like he could never just stay still.
He should have had a fidget spinner.
He would have loved that. He's the kind of kid who, if he were homeschooled nowadays with a diagnosis, he would likely be jumping on the trampoline while saying his times tables. That's the kind of education that our brother would have benefited from. It brought him a lot of anxiety, school did. You and I enjoyed the process of learning, and we enjoyed learning so much that we did really well in school. But I really struggled when I got to college, to the point where I was not going to be successful. I only knew how to test well. A lot of what you have to learn to get to what you want to learn is the prerequisites. I could not force myself to learn the super boring required things. I struggled a lot in college, and that's where I really noticed I'm not like other people. That was a big tell for me after Laura's diagnosis, where I kind of realized, oh, I am different. I have always been different.
What signs did you see in me?
You always had a passion that you were working on, and it was your hyper focus, and you could work on it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And you were going to work on it until it was absolutely perfect. And that was your thing. You're still very much like that. And that's a valued thing because you're productive. I remember you really struggling with your peers. And every year you had some struggle with your friends. That was always a big deal. I don't understand this social construct. I don't care what you say. I don't care how that makes you feel. This is stupid. Let me tell you why. And maybe you'll agree with me once you understand. So let me explain it to you, which people don't like.
Yeah, I struggled with a lot of teachers. They always said I had a bad attitude.
It's funny because now I understand, like, I struggle with Laura in that a lot because she'll just say stuff to me and I'm like, "Stop talking back to me."
Gunnar does that too.
Right? It's like you're disregarding my authority as your parent. My ADHD struggle is, "I'm right, why won't you listen to me?" And their struggle is, "I have an opinion, why won't you listen to the opinion?"
For Gunnar, I find that I have to take a deep breath and not get mad. I have to explain to him because my first reaction is I want to yell. But I have to stop, take a deep breath, and tell him what you just said to me was disrespectful, and I do not deserve disrespect. That's why I'm talking to you because I'm giving you respect. I expect the same respect. That should be a t shirt. I expect respect.
Exactly.
Do you have any last words or advice that you would give people who are maybe struggling in school with a neurodivergent child?
You are their parent. You're the one who decides what your child needs. Don't let other people make you feel any particular way about your child or what your child is experiencing or what your child is capable of. Only you can truly know that. So you are the one who is best equipped to determine what they need. Don't let the emotions of the situation influence things as much as you're able, because a lot of the time schools, a lot of the time teachers, a lot of the people in your life around you, they do want your child to succeed and they do want to collaborate with you, but ultimately it is up to you to determine what is best for your child. I'm not going to sit here and say that every school system is corrupt and all these teachers are terrible people and all of these things. That's actually most of the time not true at all. But you have to determine for your family and for your neurodivergent child, what kind of help do they need? What kind of resources do they need? And how are you going to help them with that? Because they need you. And you, as their parent, are their number one resource and their reason for success. And if you have to take them out of a certain system to do that, to help them succeed, don't be afraid because your child will succeed if you're a parent who knows enough to care about what your child is experiencing and going through. They are going to be successful and they will thrive. And that's what everybody wants. They want their child to thrive.
Exactly. I forget where I read this article, but it said we need to be our children's advocate, not only for our children's success, but so our children know that they are worth fighting for.
And that's so true.
That's one of these things that these kids deserve is to know that they are worthy.
They are. And parents should know that they are worthy to be parents of neurodivergent children. You are this child's parent and you know best. You know this child better than anybody else, regardless of their profession, regardless of their experience. You are the professional parent of your child and you're worthy of being able to call the shots and be their parent. You are capable. The definition of success is up to you as the parent.